Hello, agus fáilte rascú trí seascad. In program Ep5 h-Alba a h-Alba go crea scéalach gan an Pauline NicDhòmhnaill an in sil spórs na h-Alba. Is mis Iona Ballantyne agus ha mi gleich tálaigh ra go bhfuil Pauline NicDhòmhnaill callroom san studio. Tí a bhana captain skip in na h-Alba, ha an Juna manager ar skip a ág in na h-Alba fo is 7 bliana díag. In ochgar a program haar nara ar America, fod in Aging Oklahoma, Bruin sin sa chluicheadair ball-bascaid Celina Eisenhardt na bhí chluich spórs na Stàitean Aonaichte. Bí an goilfear Gemma Dryburgh a ggéis sé gain man gluasad h-Alba go Florida ag 5 bliana díag, agus Cluinnidh sin bó Suzanne Mulvey na na planachan h-Alba gus corm in na hórstó chluicheadair an ága ball-coise an in America. Pauline, welcome to 360.
Thank you.
Now, as a manager of Scotland under-17s, how have the past sort of 6-7 months been for you?
I think probably irregular is maybe a good way to put it. Initially, there was a lot of uncertainty, and since kind of mid-July, I've been back working part-time, which has been fantastic in terms of getting a little bit of structure to my day and back in touch with the players, which is always nice. And hopefully things will move forward from this now, but I guess we just need to wait and see.
You talk about uncertainty. How do you keep your players motivated through this time?
I think given that I'm working with a younger age group, it was maybe a little bit easier for me because obviously the restrictions weren't quite so tough, although they didn't maybe have as much structure. We tried to have regular contact with them and come up with a kind of training program that they could do on their own or within small groups when that was allowed. So yeah, regular contact and maybe actually more contact and communication than I would have had with them during that time. So it's been nice in terms of, you know, further developing those meaningful relationships.
And keeping contact with them, how have you found that they've been? Because I mean, life is so uncertain for so many people, but at that age, under 17, school life's disrupted, their hobbies now disrupted. How have they been?
I think obviously the situation is very unique to the individual in terms of where they live, what they have exposure to, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, where their parents' kind of views are. So it's very much, like I say, it's an individual thing. But I mean, for me, at most, you know, whether speaking to the players in small groups or on their own, they've all been extremely positive. And I think that was maybe because there was still hope that we would go to the Netherlands and we would compete in that elite round, which is obviously, unfortunately, not going to happen now. But, you know, they're all back playing and training with the clubs. They're all back into school and they seem to have come out at most unscathed.
And hoping that you're back in Scotland camp soon?
Hopefully, yes. So we have a camp scheduled on the 20th of October and we're just waiting really on the go-ahead from obviously the Scottish FA following today's announcements.
And how are you preparing for that? What will be expected in that camp?
For me, I think the most important thing is that they can come in. It's a new group of players, so it's about getting to know each other. It's about trying to really focus on the team dynamic from minute one. It's also about, you know, trying to ensure that they feel confident and comfortable with that within that environment, and absolutely enjoy their first experience, given, you know, the tough 5-6 months that we've just experienced. And
I guess seeing the men's game back up and running, but they have faced challenges with testing, disruption to games being called off and postponed. Do you have any worries about going ahead?
I think, you know, you just really have to try and put that to the back of your mind and do what you normally do. I think, you know, if you get caught up with worrying, you'll waste so much energy and that will potentially put me in a drained state, and I don't want to be in a drained state. I want to give every little bit of energy I have to that session when I first get to see my players back on the pitch.
Brilliant, thank you, Pauline. Ar son aiste go háis go búil, féime tú Iberta na Dheanú, rud a rein Celina Eisenhardt. Luas éise go Oklahoma, a sé sgoileireachd ein, rud thucaí an corm ball-bascaid professionta a chluich. Ha Celina ar a bhrein rí trí seascad nó bhith ar tuibh éile a chuain.
Edinburgh Kats Alpanach Celina Eisenhardt a chluich grún spórs an Ille, bar Stàitean Aonaichte me ball-bascaid.
This might sound cheesy, but I remember watching High School Musical and I just loved the basketball sequences in that. So that kind of motivated me to join in, because everything that they did with the ball and everything, it looked cool. And then the jump shot, is now, what I do best, and I love scoring. That's kind of what drew me to basketball, that coolness about it. So it was on a Monday night after school. So I just kind of went along, not really knowing what to expect. I liked it. I went every week, and I liked it. It wasn't the first sport that I joined. I've done swimming, gymnastics, a little bit of tennis prior to that. So I was the kind of person that liked to try every single sport. And then, when basketball came up, I tried it and I really liked it, and I continued on playing from there at various levels.
Mus do gluas Celina híos a hasing ba I a chluich son na cúlcad an an dheidhinn, agus an na hin hu the nearstachug am sna skillen ball-bascaid.
So my parents kind of saw that I was really enjoying basketball and I wanted to take it further. So they looked up, what clubs are in the city or nearby that I can maybe join, and the city of Edinburgh was the first one that popped up. So I went along to a session on a Friday night to the under 12s, and I really liked it. So I stayed. And that's kind of where I learned the basics for the first time. And then I just kind of moved up through the age groups as time went on. And that's kind of, at City of Edinburgh is where I saw maybe like a lot of growth in my basketball talent. I was like, right, I'm on the right path before I head down to Myers School. I really thought I was prepared.
As je wie dáv lena ag skippa hasing Myers School, glua Celina go Murray State, le eartas for imita college eile am sna Stàitean.
This time 2 years ago, I never thought I'd be able to make it. I was just starting out at Myers School. And then my first year didn't go too good. It was kind of rough. However, my second year in Myers School, I started believing, being like, I can do this. I was getting a few interests early on, so I stayed in contact with those coaches. And then when that kind of fizzled out, junior colleges started, emailing me, being like, hey, you're actually pretty good, we want you on your squad. So I got a few, major interests out of that, and then that turned into offers. So I was sitting there, looking, which one's best for me, and Murray State was that school.
In this stage an an Oklahoma, han chluicheadair fas cleachte the cúsin am sna Stàitean, agus ha I genu fuir the toshach na season college and skip a
It's not that different than to what I expected. I was fortunate enough to have a coach at Myers School who's been there, done that. So he was constantly like giving me nuggets of information, making sure that I'm prepared, know what to expect, so on, from not just from like coaches, but also from a culture standpoint. So it wasn't initially like a big shock as I was expecting. I kind of settled in nicely. The whole team's nice. We're getting used to one another now. Things are slowly coming together on the court. Obviously, we're still in very early stages of preparation. We've got till November 20th to get something up and running before we break for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Le fysig Celina fel tar o byddig ol has, sé a bhí a chluich in either sarcha a suringi and route smua either veli a gamas.
I'd really like to earn myself a spot on a D1 college. So a 4-year school, transfer there after 2 years here. And then beyond that, I'd really like to see what it's like to play professionally. in whatever league that may be. That's where I'd like to go.
Pauline, it's really great to see stories like Celina's where she's totally dedicated to her sport and is now pursuing her dream.
No, absolutely, and you know, for somebody so young, she looks like she's really has a clear understanding of what this opportunity means for her, not just in terms of a basketball opportunity, but an academic opportunity and a new cultural experience.
And as she mentioned in the VT, her first year she wasn't feeling too great about her basketball and really came into herself in her second year. As a coach, when you spot talent, how do you sort of nurture and develop that if they don't quite have the confidence?
I think it's just down to perseverance, and I think, you know, for me as a coach, I would say that, you know, that can happen. Transition is very, very different for every player. But I think, you know, the more that you can get to know the individual, potentially away from the court and not the pitch, I think the easier that transition becomes, and eventually you'll get, you know, the best of the person and the best of the player.
And as Celina also mentioned, she fell upon basketball by chance. Do you think more still needs to be done to have a wider option of sports available to women and girls here in Scotland?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. And she's been fortunate, you know, that she has come upon it. But I know, you know, way back when I was at school, the opportunity to try out so many more things was readily available. And I also think that it's extremely good for you in terms of, you know, your long-term development, just in terms of the basics of agility, balance and coordination. The more you can try, the more likely you are to stay engaged in physical activity long-term, which is important for all our health and well-being.
And I guess the thing is, women's sport in America is huge. It's so different to here in Scotland, isn't it?
It is. It is. I'm extremely jealous, I have to say. I've worked over there on several occasions, and it's the whole nation are so positive about sport in general, whether it's male sport, female sport, youth sport. You know, they have a real appetite and desire. They're extremely ambitious, and it's such a positive environment to both to play in and to work in.
Because it must have grown even more since when you were out in America.
Yeah, it absolutely has. When I was over there, it was, in terms of women's football, it was only a semi-professional league that they had. Obviously now they have a well-established professional league, and that has led on to great success for the US national team. And we actually start to reap the rewards now of those players coming over to play down south in the English league, which is really exciting for the growth of our game in this country as well.
And with Celina moving out to go to college in America, should we be trying to retain these athletes, or is that the best place for them to be?
I think it's a little bit of twofold, if I'm honest with you. I think any national governing body would want to do their best to try and keep their most talented players, young and older, within their country. However, every player has a different journey, you know, and it's about finding the right fit for you. As much as I would want to encourage my players to stay here and you know, go into education within Scotland and hopefully find the right fit in terms of the club that was going to push them on and help develop them, having went over to the States myself, I would be a hypocrite if I said I didn't have a positive experience. My only concern is that it can be, you know, very exciting initially. People can make very, very rash decisions without maybe having a full understanding of what they want. And actually understanding where they're going to be placed, what level of competition is it going to be, is it going to develop them, and academically, is the fit going to be correct as well?
Great, thank you. The Stàitean Aonaichte program, Cluinnidh Suzanne Mulvey, manaidsear Jenny son corman na horsto chluicheadair an ága ball-coise chluich Stàitean. Ach an toiseach caisin cura frosbech a golfar h-Alba Gemma Dryburgh. Had Joe chluich Gemma an sil golf, ach nuair a bhain a diagara, Gait a gydriach sa spórs I bhí ar slí agama at h-Alba Ballantyne.
Gemma Dryburgh déisiil aine a thuircí héin an sil golf. Ach, saoin an na ball-coise a háisí go thuí an spórs.
I don't know if it might still be my favourite sport, but I still follow it a lot and have a football night in the garden. Always have a kick about with Dad and stuff, so definitely one of my first loves for sure. I wish I could play on a team, to be honest, but I just can't risk getting injured during the season, and yeah, it's probably not worth it in the end. But maybe one day, once I finish golf, I can join an amateur team. Maybe we'll see.
Ha golf dynan iddo fi na ffordd fôr Jafé Gemma, agus fa thall-Aiche nu de vai coig blungiag. Che spores a lenigi go either profession.
My dad probably took me to the range when I was about 4. Kind of had plastic clubs at the start and just started that way, and then just gradually got into it. Kind of played all sorts of sports as well, but golf was definitely there from a young age. I ended up going over to America to a sports school called IMG Academy. At the time, it was a David Ledbetter golf academy, and they've got all sorts of sports there: tennis, basketball, football, and it's even bigger now. But anyway, at the time, I kind of wanted to play both, and so we asked if I could, and they kind of told me I had to choose one, which in hindsight was probably a good thing. Kind of concentrate on. I decided to go for golf. I felt like I probably had more potential in that. I think I made the right decision, so it seems to be going quite well. But yeah, it was a tough one because I did love football growing up, loved playing it, and but yeah, golf was the one. At 15 years old, obviously moving to Florida, quite a big deal. So it was nice to have my family there. I'm an only child, so my parents and I are very close. They try to come a normal year when they can travel. They usually come maybe three times a year to my events, and then obviously they come to the home events in Scotland. But yeah, this year it's been a bit different. Obviously they're not able to travel like they like to, but yeah, hopefully we can get back to more normality next year. We'll see.
Sé golf an ban fer jinna chiad spársan a hanna amachchas an glasach. Agus sé an Justin Rose Lady Series as curach. Ha Gemma Chluicheadair go golf an súnd, a buanachach da arbis an an stray.
Hadn't had a win since I think it was January 2017, so been a few years, and then worked hard during lockdown, kind of keeping the swing going, and then once the courses opened, I was out there pretty much every day. And then finally, yeah, we just got the news about the Justin Rose series, started in June, I think, and then yeah, I ended up winning a couple of them, which was really fun. That's always the goal, is to play in all the majors and feature in those, hopefully. Those are kind of obviously the pinnacle of our sport, so that's always the goal. It's kind of just what you practice for, really. So it's a special week whenever you get to play a major.
Ha Gemma an dáchas éisiampla Katrina Matthews a lenting, mar an chluicheadair golf a séar an Alpa, agus tí chluich ag an iad is áirte an san spárs.
It's nice to have Katrina there. She's kind of offered her advice over the years. Pick her brain when I can. Obviously a great role model for all us Scots and everyone on tour, to be honest. She's a true professional and kind of goes about her business the right way, and obviously been very successful as well. So definitely someone I've always looked up to. Obviously, I'd love to be, getting within the top 100 within kind of the next year or so, and then see where we can go from there.
Pauline, Gemma left the home of golf to pursue her skills in America. Can you blame her?
Not when you see some of those photographs. And she got to move to the Sunshine State. A fantastic environment, for somebody that's a golfer. The weather can obviously have such a detrimental effect on your practice and your performance. So, no, it seems like it's been a really positive move for her, and she looks like, she has so much potential and so many really positive opportunities to develop moving forward.
And Pauline, you yourself played out in America. How was your time there?
It was a very long time ago, but it was extremely positive. It wasn't on a scholarship opportunity. I was fortunate to be asked over to play in the W League, which was a semi-professional league that ran sort of May to September time, and I was at university at that point. So yeah, it was extremely positive. Because there was no professional league at that time, all the best players within the US were playing within that league. So for me, it was just so refreshing to play against new opponents, new teams, new players that I didn't know of. I thought coming from Scotland, you know, I was technically gifted. I had some good tactical attributes, and I thought I was pretty fit. But in comparison to some of the players I played up against, you know, it was night and day. And I really think that my experience over there took my physical fitness and my mental strength to a different level and gave me that longevity within the Women's A squad and also my move to Arsenal Ladies.
What was it that made the differences between fitness so different? Do you think it was just how much focus was on sport out in America then?
Over there you have vast numbers, and those vast numbers bring really, really intense competition for places. So the fitter you are as a player, the more likely you are to play. And just in terms of any form of American sport, it's such a fundamental part of any game. And I think, you know, for me, that was probably the real wake-up call that I needed and gave me the opportunity to take my game to the next level and lead on to more positive opportunities as I moved through.
And even back then, were there still big crowds going to women's soccer games in America compared to Scotland?
Yeah, in comparison, you know, when I was playing over there, we would have an average crowd of probably about 2,000. I think our best crowd was something like 8,000, and that was kind of a playoff game before we managed to reach the final four. So yeah, significantly higher than even what we have here today, unfortunately.
And back when you were playing there, did you ever imagine football in Scotland being at the place it's at now?
I hoped it would be, and I think, you know, we're definitely going in a positive direction. I think qualifying for the last two major tournaments has made a significant difference in terms of the visibility and the profile of the game. This whole global pandemic, I think, has kind of deterred maybe how much we could have built on the legacy of the World Cup. But, you know, hopefully when things get back to normal, we can keep pushing and the visibility of the game and the product will continue to flourish.
Well, here's hoping. Thank you. Yn och casir ar y Cluinnidh mar y gluasad gan America na corman ac y dylesgwg an y ball-bascaid agus golf. Ach yn yr ein yn owner y gram again ball-coise. Ha siawn chluicheadair na h-Alba Suzanne Mulvey is mynd yn gynwyrain. Mar a hair fi y geinsiad o 3 siasgad.
Getting to know, you know, young athletes, where they're at the moment, where they want to be, and being able to you know, during that journey, just help them. It's just amazing. It's so rewarding for me. That's a place to go if you want to play professional football. Getting that chance to go and play in America is obviously, you know, once in a lifetime opportunity.
Ha immert ag siawn chluicheadair na h-Alba Suzanne Mulvey, far wil y gluicheadair yn talent Alpa na chysir son sgoileireachd ons na Stàitean Aonaichte.
Sentinel Sports is a company that arranges for young kids to go over to America on, I'd say, football or soccer scholarships, but I don't want to narrow it down because eventually I do want to branch out into other sports as well. But at the moment I'm concentrating on what I know, which is football/soccer. So what we do is we obviously arrange for kids to go over to America on scholarships, but I've seen a gap in the market where kids aren't getting developed before they go. So what I aim to do here is bring them on board and look at their nutrition, look at their training schedule at the moment, and then work on that and try and expand, try and improve kind of every aspect of their diet, their training, also as well their personality in preparation for going over to America. Players maybe get left behind or they fall away for, you know, career choices or academically they've got to go to university. So I felt that this is another option. You know, it's for some people, it's not for other people, but I feel that it's a great option where they can go away and they're almost like professionals because you're training almost every day, you're playing at world-class facilities, and also as well you're getting a degree at the end of it after the 4 years. So it's a great option for people to, as I say, not have the pressure of being a professional at such a young age, but training like a professional.
Ha Suzanne iddi fi mesel agus an gwyl yn y Stàitean fod 2030, a sio I cwrs gan dwyich lesgab yn y h-Alba.
The love and appreciation and support that they have for athletes I'd never experienced anything like that before. They were just, what sport do you play? Oh my God, that's amazing, it's so great. Whereas in this country it maybe lacks a bit, you're just, oh, you play football, whatever. Whereas over there they just welcomed you with open arms, and because we were playing against the US women's national team, they got treated like celebrities. You know, they got free tickets to the basketball games, the ice hockey games, and we were the same. We got free tickets to the ice hockey. We were up on the big screen at half time. So it was a great experience, and obviously playing in front of the US women's national team in front of 15,000 in Jacksonville, and then we went on to Nashville was just an amazing experience. And came back home, and I wanted to go straight back over there. I wanted to move over there. So I can appreciate the facilities. I can appreciate the love of the game over there. But also as well, you know, I feel that it's just a way for players to develop and maybe stay there, but if not, they can come back and they will be better players. So they will, you know, obviously the SFA will benefit from them going over there. There's a couple of players that have obviously went over, you know, Christy Murray, Claire Emsley, they went over there on scholarships and came back, and obviously you've seen how they've developed and they're still playing with the national team.
Libby Toshigug Driach Tronglasig, va unig leor ag Suzanne Mulvey ein Kerst agus Jeshal guna hírin minachach eiche heen.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I've kind of worked on the website myself and watching everything myself, so I've had a lot of time, a lot of hours been put into it, but it's been fantastic. I've had a great response, even kind of one-to-one coaches wanting to come on board to offer training. The likes of Christy Murray's came on board, she's going to be helping me out with the training programmes for the athletes, which is another great thing, because for young players who know Christy Murray, that's a national team player, know that she knows who they are and that she's helping develop them as players. I think that's a great incentive for the young players to kind of keep pushing themselves and keep progressing. I love football, I wanted to stay involved in football. Coaching a team kind of isn't my thing. I prefer kind of one-to-one personal, helping players individually, and I feel, you know, coaches that I've worked with in the past, Eddie Black, the little things that he's taught me have stayed with me the most. So for me to kind of pass on little things, individual things to players, you know, that they'll remember or they'll benefit from, for me, that's kind of what I want to do.
Ianian ober Lail a gober cash gilorgata, han chluicheadair a genu fuir the ball-coise farpashach a toshig a gadiist. Lishkid na guntiki kunant, follow the partic thistle, Sagera.
It's been a long lockdown, a long hard lockdown, but it's fantastic to be back, and obviously just can't wait for games to start. All the guys are absolutely fantastic. They've came in and, you know, hit the ground running. We absolutely love the sessions. It's varied, it's so different to what we're used to, because they're kind of bringing ideas from the men's game, and it is different. And even the fitness drills as well, they're kind of hammering us with them, but it's great. All the girls have responded really well, and we're really looking forward to seeing kind of how that relationship develops. You know, I've played football for such a long time. I wouldn't be still playing if I didn't want to win the league and I didn't want to get promotion. So for me, it's definitely to win the league. And I think the players that we've got, and especially with the guys in now as well, kind of, it's just changed angle. It's kind of changed, you know, the dynamics in the team. So I think definitely promotion. You know, we want to win the league, yeah.
Pauline, players in your squad must talk about pursuing a career in football. Do any of them have their sights set on America?
I think potentially some will, and it's maybe a little bit early days for them to be speaking about it. Most of my players are probably in 4th year, 5th year at school, so maybe just a little bit too early for them. But I know, obviously, when they move up to under-19s, it's definitely a thought process. I think probably just now, though, the fact that the game is growing so significantly within our own country in terms of Rangers, Celtic and Glasgow City now professional, and also down south, that for some it may be an option to actually stay closer to home. But I do think that, yeah, it's always been there in the background and will continue to be so, I'm sure.
And just moving on to Scotland, they are supposed to be back in action at the end of this month. Now, Shelley Kerr spoke this week about feeding the excitement from the men's game into the women's game to help it regain momentum. What can we be doing?
Do we need to feed momentum? I'm not quite sure. I think just those players being back together, they'll be... I mean, it's been a long time since they've seen each other, so I think the momentum, the excitement for the up-and-coming fixtures will already be there. And I think that, you know, if we look at the fixtures, Albania, it's a good game for us to start with, where we can maybe get rid of any kind of rustiness that may potentially be there. They can get back to building or reconnecting the relationships together, and then I don't think we need any more motivation than to be playing Finland and obviously our previous coach Iona Ballantyne.
And the thing is, they have been out of action for so long. What will it be like going back into training in Scotland?
Most of these girls are obviously at professional clubs, so they'll have resumed training sort of, you know, beginning of August, obviously play teams like Arsenal and Glasgow City even before that. So, you know, I think the transition back into national team training will be a really smooth one for them. Fingers crossed that everybody stays safe and healthy.
And if we have a look at the squad, which was just released this week, I mean, there are no massive changes. That's quite a squad that Shelley's happy with, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely, and it's great that situation has come about, because I think that, you know, the togetherness and the team dynamic help you and continue to build the momentum, and obviously the results so far have been very, very convincing, and I think if you can continue to have the same group, you've established relationships, the more those relationships grow, I think the better the product on the pitch and the more successful the team will be.
And how important is it for Scotland to go out and do a job?
It's really important. They absolutely, first game back, I think the most important thing is the 3 points. Finland will be a different level and a very different type of opponent. I think I could foresee it being a very, very close game, a very physical game. Both teams really need the 3 points. So yeah, it's an exciting few weeks ahead for the girls and women's game.
And I guess as a nation, I mean, Scotland, we could really do with a win just to boost the morale of the country just now.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree 100% with that. Obviously, we've got the men's game up and coming as well. So 3 points there, and then to continue that with hopefully 6 points in our double header would be fantastic.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, sin air son program na seachgainsa, ma hag forward the Pauline son of vinam kuchachs in studio. Fyddi chef garlantal gach seachgain YouTube, mar sin jankeen seachgain each shape gavella cortafrave, gumbi chef garlantal agus nach calship programs in B. Kunika grasha on program akafshe, mar sin skella van fat agus farsing agus cumavada of a coyat. Bodachi spores for a h-Alba, mar sin live in the ras.